Grand Theatre mug again. Picture of my beloved Grand Theatre in the background there. And I said last time I would talk about some of the pantomimes I've done at the Grand Theatre. Well, let's start at the very beginning, shall we? So I'll talk our way through them as we go through. These are just some of the leaflets. Well, in fact, I think these are all the leaflets. There's only one I can't find. There's the first Snow White. I don't think I can find it from was it Aladdin? I will come to it when I get to that point. There's one of the pantomimes I don't seem to have any leaflet for. So if anyone can help me with that, I'd be very much appreciated. So let's start. I mean, the first pantomimes I did, the first pantomime I ever did was in Southport, actually, at the theatre at the front, the Floral Pavilion. And that was with Stephen Pinder, Bobby Nutt, look at that, the Patton Brothers, Connie Crichton, incredible lineup. And then I went on to do 4 years at Preston. And then in 2003, finally made my way right here to the Grand Theatre in Blackpool. And there's the first leaflet of that film. Look at that little cherub there. Look at that. Oh my word. Well, what a cast as well. What can I talk about this pantomime? The first thing that struck me when I looked at this leaflet earlier was I didn't realise, I always thought I started at BBC Radio Lancashire in 2004. Now, that may be the case. That may be when I got my full-time Saturday morning show there. But on here, I'm credited for the first time on any of the panto leaflets. It says, from Camelot and BBC Radio Lancashire. Now, I think that was my last year at Camelot. So I must have finished Camelot that summer season, then gone straight into doing the pantomime. But I was always under the impression, and I've always told people, I thought I got the job at BBC Radio Lancashire as a result of going with the cast from the pantomime. And I know I did go, it must have now been, thinking about it now, must have been at the Preston panto cast. But I remember going into Radio Lancashire and having an interview with Sally Naden and Ted Robbins. And Ted said to me at the time, he says, you should step in for me. You could stand in. And I thought, what, a juggler on the radio? Yeah, that'll work well. But anyway, he then phoned me up the following Easter. He was having 2 weeks holiday and I stepped in, and the rest is history, as you say. I used to stand in for Ted for a couple of years. That's why I'm thinking maybe my first year was 2004, full time. But I used to stand in a lot in 2003, and then they offered me a full-time job. Anyway, let's go back to the pantomime show. Let's talk about this one, because it obviously, for many, many reasons, it's hugely etched in my mind. I remember getting that year. Like I said, I'd been at Preston, and they decided they didn't want me. Well, they actually said, it makes me laugh now, because they said, well, we would like you back, but can you do it for less money? And I thought, well, it's not really gonna, take a step backwards. A new company had taken over, that's what. But Dougie Chapman, now I should mention Dougie Chapman, and I know he's got a strong association with the Grand Theatre as well. He was the guy who first gave me my break. From being a very young child, I remember going to, when I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old, going to see pantomimes. I remember going to see Lenny Henry, I think it was at Middleton Civic. I grew up over in Rochdale, Lancashire. And, say Lancashire, it's Greater Manchester, but we're still Lancashire. And I remember going and seeing Lenny Henry in panto and just staring, just thinking, I want to do that, I want to. And I always knew, once I became an entertainer, once I started doing the juggling act especially, I kind of knew that I would, it sounds very big-headed to say this, but I knew that would be something I would be good at. I've always known that I can entertain children and adults at the same time. I don't think everyone appreciates that there is it's a skill. There is a skill involved in that. It's getting the balance right. It's not being too childish so the adults turn off, and it's not being too adult so the kids don't understand, if you get my idea. And so I always knew, and so thanks to Dougie Chapman, he took the first risk on me with that pantomime back in Southport, and I'm eternally grateful to him. In fact, yesterday, funnily enough, yesterday would have been his 84th birthday, I think I'm right in saying that. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. And that was also the last time I saw Ken Dodd at Dougie Chapman's funeral. Ken Dodd spoke to my kids. I'll tell you very quickly what Ken Dodd said to my kids, and I'm so pleased that he took time out and spoke to me. He said, oh, you see your father here? Yeah, you see your father? He says, look, you see, he's bald here. he's bald here. That's because men who are bald here are great thinkers. They think, you see, that's the thinker's pose, And your dad's bald here as well. Now, you see, men who are bald here are great lovers. Men who are bald on top there, great lovers. Now, your dad's bald here and he's bald there. That means he thinks he's a great lover. My kids were just like that. Totally none, but it certainly entertained me. Anyway, let's go back to this one, shall we? The fabulous first pantomime, Peter Pan. I remember getting the phone call and saying, would you be interested in Panto in Blackpool? And obviously I leapt at the chance. I thought, oh my word, this is just fantastic. And I went down to the first day rehearsal. I've probably never been so nervous in a first day of rehearsal, but I needn't have been because the cast that year were just awesome. I think I was probably more excited the fact that Maureen Nolan, right, obviously growing up in the 70s and 80s, the Nolans were a big deal for me. And between you and me, Norah was always the one that I liked. So I was chuffed to bits to be working with Maureen, and she was a lovely lady. Sophie McDonnell, she was Peter Pan, if you remember that one. And Tony Conter. Now Tony, to this day, still sends me a Christmas card every year. What a lovely fella. Lovely man. Played Roy Evans in EastEnders. And I never used to watch EastEnders. I never have watched EastEnders. Just a bit too depressing, isn't it, eh? Oh, I bet they're loving this storyline on EastEnders at the moment. Anyway, Tony Conter. But an interesting little side note about Tony Conter. I had so much fun doing the Captain Hook scenes. Anyone who's seen me do Peter Pan, it never used to be my favourite panto. Never used to be, because I used to always consider it more of a musical. Doesn't have a dame, always have a dame character in it. It never felt to me like, and also it's a bit me being egotistical, but I never felt like I was the main character in it. The comic is never, Captain Hook's the main star, but especially since working with the likes of Tony was brilliant. I've looked, Gary Turner was another Captain Hook, but then the last two I've done with Tom Lister, it's just been such a gift to work with such a talented and wonderfully generous bloke on stage as well. And I think because we bounce off each other so well, that's why it's become one of my favourite pantomimes now. But Tony Conter, right, I'll tell you a little story about Tony. Such a lovely bloke. We had a great time in pantomime, and then we met up a couple of years later, not far from where I'm sat right now. I live quite near the canal. And Tony Conter, his little side note, we'll finish this episode with this. He has a barge. I assume he still has the badge, and a narrowboat, that is, and it's called Tender Seas. I'll just pause and have a sip of my coffee while you have a think about that. Tony Conter from EastEnders has a barge, a narrowboat called Tender Seas. Worked out, it's an anagram of EastEnders. Anyway, join me again later and we'll talk about another pantomime.